A very warm welcome to each and every one of you tuning in for our continuous rolling coverage of this breaking sports bulletin. We are coming to you live right here and right now, keeping our finger firmly on the pulse of a developing narrative that has absolutely fractured the social media landscape, sent shockwaves through the international tennis community, and effectively turned a major global transit hub into a theater of beautiful, unadulterated chaos. If you have cast even a fleeting glance at your social feeds or checked your alerts in the last 6 hours, you are undoubtedly already in the loop. You have seen the viral clips, they have witnessed the sheer density of the crowds, and you have felt that raw, unfiltered surge of electricity that is currently surging across the entire Middle East. Let me be perfectly clear about this. The banner flashing at the bottom of your screen is not engagement bait, and it is certainly not an exaggeration. This is the unvarnished reality of the situation unfolding on the ground as we speak. We have coined a term for this specific energy, the Zayed shock. It is a phenomenon of viral magnitude that has transformed what should be a mundane flight departure into a massive national-scale spectacle. Alexandra Eala, the tennis prodigy from the Philippines and the undeniable pride of Southeast Asia, has just departed Abu Dhabi, setting her sights on Qatar. The vibe inside the terminal defies simple description. It is an atmosphere we have not seen surrounding a tennis athlete in years, evoking the hysteria typically reserved for stadium-filling rock stars rather than court-bound athletes. To truly comprehend the gravity of these scenes, we must paint a vivid picture of the past week. Abu Dhabi has effectively served as the spiritual home of Asian tennis during this swing. The Mubadala Abu Dhabi Open evolved into something far more significant than a standard bracket of matches. It became a pilgrimage. Thousands of overseas Filipino workers, lifelong tennis aficionados, and, intrigued, local residents flooded the stands at the Zayed Sports City International Tennis Center, ensuring that every single point Eala played felt like a raucous, high-stakes home fixture. We watched legitimate sporting miracles take place on that hard court. We witnessed comeback victories that completely ignored the laws of probability and logic. We also saw a dynamic doubles partnership blossom with Indonesia's Janice Tjen, a power duo, the fans affectionately dubbed the ZIAers, that captured the collective imagination and the hearts of the quartet, an entire region. However, the scenes that transpired just a few short hours ago at the airport represent a cultural tidal wave far larger than a simple game of tennis. As Eala's convoy pulled up to the terminal to board her connection to Doha for the prestigious Qatar Open, the situation rapidly spiraled into a frenzy of adoration. Incoming reports from the ground indicate that airport security personnel were briefly overwhelmed by the sheer mass of humanity, hoping to catch a glimpse of the 20-year-old superstar. We are looking at a veritable ocean of smartphones, waving national flags and handmade placards, filling every inch of the departure hall. The footage currently circulating across the web is trending at #1 across the Philippines, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. It displays a level of celebrity hysteria usually reserved for Korean pop music titans or Hollywood A-listers. Keep in mind, this is a tennis player currently ranked outside to the top 40. Yet she is generating the kind of fervent devotion and mania that the world #1 can usually only dream of commanding. Why is this pandemonium happening? Why has a major airport ground to a virtual standstill? It is because Alex Eala has transcended the boundaries of sport to become a bona fide cultural icon. The shock isn't just about the head count. It is about the electric intensity vibrating in the air. It is the collective realization that Asian tennis has officially found its new visage. This journey to Qatar is not merely a travel itinerary. It is a bold declaration of intent for 2026. Eala is en route to Doha for a WTA 1000 event, which represents a massive elevation in the caliber of competition, and she is carrying all the kinetic energy from a historic week here in Abu Dhabi. Throughout the duration of this broadcast, we are going to meticulously dismantle and examine the events of the last few days that triggered this viral explosion. We will discuss the miracle in Abu Dhabi, specifically her stunning triumph over Aliaksandra Sasnovich. That was a match where she essentially rose from the ashes, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat in a contest she had absolutely no business winning if you looked at the scoreboard. We will also analyze the heartbreak of the quarterfinals against Ekaterina Alexandrova and explain why, despite that loss, Eala's stock value has never traded higher than it does right now. We We'll dissect the doubles run that proved her incredible versatility and tactical mind on the court. And crucially, we will cast our gaze forward to Qatar. What specific challenges await her in Doha? Can she replicate this brand of magic on an even grander stage? First, however, we must grasp the weight and gravity of the scenes we are witnessing at the airport today. This viral moment is the crescendo of years of grinding, struggling, and shouldering heavy expectations. When you hear those fans chanting her name at the departure gate, you are listening to a massive release of pent-up national pride. The Philippines has been yearning for a genuine global tennis superstar for decades. They have celebrated legendary champions in the boxing ring, on the billiards table, and in Olympic weightlifting. But tennis is a different animal. It is a truly global theater. Seeing a Filipina stand toe-to-toe with the giants of the sport, in the heart of the Middle East, has struck a deep, resonant, emotional chord. The headlines currently emerging from Zayed International Terminal are capturing a specific snapshot in time where sport transcends the scoreboard. The shock is palpable, real, and undeniable. The viral nature of this departure stands as a testament to her impact. She is not just leaving a country, she is taking a legion of loyal supporters with her to the next battlefield. So I urge you to fasten your seatbelts over the mather. The next hour, we are going deep. We are going to analyze every serve, every volley, every post-match quote, and every viral clip that has surfaced. We will explain exactly why this specific flight to Qatar marks the tipping point in Alexandra Eala's career trajectory. This is not just news. This is history in the making. The world is watching, the airport is buzzing, and Alex Eala is on the move. Stay right where you are. This is the comprehensive deep dive you have been waiting for. Let us transition now into the very heart of Taotounders to this story. To truly understand the chaos at the airport today, to understand why security lines were backed up and why social media is currently in a total meltdown, we have to rewind the clock. We need to examine the last 120 hours in Abu Dhabi. This wasn't just a tournament, it was a crucible of character. The narrative began the precise moment Eala touched down in the United Arab Emirates. We know that the Middle East has evolved into a veritable second sanctuary for millions of overseas Filipino workers, the resilient OFW community that serves as the economic engine of the entire region. For these dedicated laborers living far from home, Alex Eala is not merely a tennis player swinging a racket at a yellow ball. She embodies a profoundly deeper narrative. She stands tall as a shining testament to world-class talent emerging from their own backyard, a living proof that they belong on the global stage with the elite. Whenever she walks onto a court in Abu Dhabi, the concept of an away game vanishes. For all intents and purposes, she is competing on native turf. She is performing before what feels like a massive extended family, creating an atmosphere so electric you can practically touch it. The perceptive organizers of the Mubadala Abu Dhabi Open recognized this cultural phenomenon immediately. They made the strategic, calculated move to feature her matches prominently on the main stadium court. This placement wasn't about her current standing in the world rankings. It was a nod to her undeniable star power and box office magnetism, a gamble she paid back with interest. Let us dive into the specific contest that sparked this absolute frenzy, her intense round of 16 showdown against Aliaksandra Sasnovich. If you were unfortunate enough to miss this encounter, you missed one of the most breathtaking exhibitions of raw tenacity and spirit we have seen on the tour in 2026. Sasnovich is anything but an easy out. She is a seasoned warrior who has mastered the art of navigating high-pressure situations. She is rugged, vastly experienced, and hammers the ball with a flat, penetrating trajectory that can be a nightmare to defend. Statistically speaking, Sasnovich was the heavy favorite to move forward in the draw. And for the opening set and a half, the analytics looked like they were spot on. In the early exchanges, Eala appeared completely out of her depth. She was leaking unforced errors. Her nerves were visibly shaking, her composure, and the magnitude of the moment seemed overwhelming. The thousands of fans aching to explode with noise were effectively muted by Sasnovich's commanding play. Eala dropped the opener 2-6. She fell behind in the second set, and the outlook was grim. It looked for all the world like a routine exit was imminent. Her shoulders were slumped, her energy flagged, and an air of resignation began to settle over the court. Suddenly, there was a seismic shift in the stadium's atmosphere. We frequently talk about the intangible X factor in elite sports, often as a throwaway phrase. But in this specific battle, that X factor was undeniably the roar of the crowd. A rhythmic chant of "Let's go, Alex," began to swell from the terraces, not celebrating a lead but defiantly rejecting the scoreboard, and Eala started to siphon power from that noise. She abandoned her tentative defense and began crushing her forehand with renewed conviction. She began painting the lines with surgical accuracy. She scrapped and fought her way back to snatch the second set 6-4. Then arrived the third set, the final act, where reputations are forged and sporting history is written. Yet Eala found herself trailing once more in the decider. She was down a break, looking defeat squarely in the eyes. Sasnovich stepped up to the baseline, serving for the match. If you watch the viral footage circulating this week, the tension in the air is heavy enough to cut with a knife. The arena would go silent enough to hear a pin drop before the serve, only to detonate with noise every time Eala claimed a point. She broke back against all odds. She forced the tiebreak. And in that high-wire act of a tiebreak, she unleashed fearless attacking tennis. When Sasnovich's final shot sailed long beyond the baseline, the stadium did not just cheer. It descended into absolute joyous bedlam. That was the watershed moment. That was the spark that ignited the entire powder keg. That victory did more than just push her into the quarterfinals. It electrified the entire Filipino diaspora across the region. It communicated to every fan in the stands, "I am here battling for you." That singular triumph explains precisely why the airport terminal was absolutely gridlocked today. Spectators do not travel in packs to watch an athlete who quietly bows out in the opening round. They show up to witness a gladiator. They came to see the young woman who refused to fold against a seasoned veteran like Sasnovich. However, this narrative is not complete without examining the doubles bracket. We absolutely must discuss the phenomenon that occurred there, as it highlights a crucial evolution in Eala's game while partnering with Indonesia's standout Janice Tjen. This alliance was as much a diplomatic masterstroke as it was a sporting success. You witnessed the Philippines and Indonesia, two titans of Southeast Asia combining their strengths on the court. They tore through the doubles draw, with a chemistry that looked like they had been playing together for years. They dismantled established seeded pairs who have seasons of experience together. They stormed into the semifinals, smashing every pre-tournament prediction. Why is this relevant to her viral departure to Qatar? Because it showed the world that Eala is genuinely having fun with her tennis again. It demonstrated she can volley with authority, cover the net with feline agility, and captain a team dynamic. The rapport between Eala and Tjen was infectious. They were constantly smiling, high-fiving, and keeping the crowd involved in the match. This wave of positive energy cushioned the disappointment of her singles exit and kept fan engagement at fever pitch all week long. Now, however, we must pivot and objectively analyze the quarterfinal defeat at the hands of Ekaterina Alexandrova. We need to maintain a realistic perspective here. Alexandrova is firmly established in the world's top 15. She is a completely different caliber of opponent compared to Sasnovich, playing with a velocity, depth, and clinical precision that Eala is still learning to neutralize. The final scoreboard read 3-6, 3-6, a straight sets exit. But if we zoom in on the match metrics, Eala was certainly not blown off the court. She was hanging tough in the extended rallies and making her presence felt. She generated breakpoint opportunities throughout the contest. The distinguishing factor was the consistency of the serve and the conversion rate on critical points. Alexandrova has a decade of tour experience under her belt, whereas Eala is still effectively a teenager in this brutal sport. This defeat was a tuition fee for the future, not a failure. And yet, remarkably, the fan support did not flicker for a second despite the loss. If anything, it intensified. And that brings us directly to the chaotic scenes we are witnessing right now. The departure. The physical transit from Abu Dhabi to Doha is a brief flight, but metaphorically it represents a massive leap in competitive level. The Qatar Total Energies Open is a WTA 1000 event, the highest tier outside the slams. This is the major leagues, plain and simple. This is the playground of giants like Iga Swiatek, Aryna Sabalenka, and Coco Gauff. For Eala, earning a spot in the main draw, or navigating the treacherous qualifying rounds, is a colossal opportunity for her professional development. The viral frenzy at the airport, the shockwaves currently hitting the headlines, is merely the physical manifestation of these sky-high expectations. The legions of fans at the terminal were not simply waving goodbye. They were effectively deploying her to the front lines. They understand that the battlefield in Qatar will be significantly more hostile. They know the adversaries are ruthless, and the stakes have never been higher. The sheer density of the crowd at the departure gate at Zayed International Airport sent an unequivocal message. We stand with you in victory or defeat. Let us break down the viral clip itself to really grasp the magnitude of what we are seeing. What exactly is unfolding in the footage? We see Eala pushing her own luggage cart flanked by security personnel. Yet she pauses. She takes the precious time to sign autographs. She smiles warmly and poses for selfies with the swarming fans. Despite the bedlam, despite the shock of seeing such a massive humanity crushing in around her, she remains the picture of poise and grace. This is the hallmark of a genuine superstar. Many athletes her age would crumble under that intensity. They would retreat to the safety of the VIP lounge to escape the masses. Eala chose to walk right through the front entrance. She engaged directly with her people. That authentic connection is exactly why she is blossoming into a global icon. She has been grinding on these courts for 10 years, yet we must remind ourselves that Eala is still just a teenager navigating a ruthless adult world. While the scoreboard might register a defeat, insiders recognize this recent loss as a critical masterclass rather than a lack of talent. Remarkably, instead of fading away, the public support did not waver in the slightest. If anything, the fan base actually grew louder and more passionate. This surge of momentum brings us right to the present moment, the departure. Geographically, the transfer from Abu Dhabi over to Doha is merely a quick hop, but regarding her career, it represents a massive, metaphorical leap into the stratosphere. We are talking about the Qatar Total Energies Open, a prestigious WTA 1000-level tournament. Make no mistake, folks, this is the big leagues. This is the elite arena, where world number 1 Iga Swiatek dominates, where the powerhouse Aryna Sabalenka strikes, and where superstar Coco Gauff shines. For Eala, securing a place in that main draw or even fighting through qualifiers depending on the cut is a monumental, career-defining opportunity. Now let us address that viral frenzy at the airport. The shock and awe currently splashing across international headlines is really just the physical proof of the sky-high expectations resting on her shoulders. The crowds packing the terminal were not simply there to catch a glimpse of a celebrity. This was something deeper. When you looked at the fans crowding every inch of the departure hall, you realized they were not just waving a casual goodbye. They were effectively rallying the troops and sending their champion off to war. These fans are smart. They understand that the challenge waiting in Qatar is going to be significantly more grueling. They are fully aware that the level of opposition is about to skyrocket against the world's best. The incredible density of the crowd gathering at the gates of Zayed International Airport served as a loud, undeniable message to the world. It screamed, "We promise to stand right beside you, celebrating every triumph and weathering every heartbreak." Now let us dissect that viral sensation sweeping the internet frame by painstaking frame. What is the true story behind this chaotic footage? We see Eala maneuvering through the crush, physically pushing her own luggage cart, while flanked by a massive security detail that looks overwhelmed. But pay close attention to her demeanor. She actually halts her forward momentum. She takes precious seconds to sign autographs. She stops to capture selfies with adoring supporters. Even in the center of that absolute bedlam, and despite the jarring shock of confronting thousands of screaming people, she retains a level of grace and poise that is simply unteachable. That behavior right there is the undeniable hallmark of a genuine superstar. We have witnessed countless young athletes crumble completely when the spotlight burns this bright. Their instinct is usually to retreat, fleeing into the sanctuary of a VIP lounge. But not Eala. She marched directly through the main terminal chin-up. She did not run from the moment, she embraced the people. It is that unique combination of authentic humility off the court and total ruthlessness between the baselines that makes her a marketer's ultimate fantasy. Major corporate sponsors are not merely interested, they are circling the waters. This explains exactly why. The tour's official social media channels are pumping out content featuring her 24/7. She has become an absolute engagement juggernaut, but we need to shift our perspective to the immediate future. As her flight lands in Qatar, we must ask, what are the real implications of this chaotic viral departure? Primarily, the pressure has reached a boiling point. The scenes at the airport demonstrate that Eala has officially graduated from the underdog category. Her rivals waiting for her in Doha are now keenly aware of the danger she poses. They realize that stepping onto the hard court against her means fighting not just a talented opponent but a hostile atmosphere. The Eala army travels in massive legions. We are predicting a tidal wave of Filipino support flooding the Doha stadium bleachers as, well, this radically transforms the energy of any contest. It is an atmosphere capable of rattling even the most seasoned veterans. although it simultaneously places a heavy backpack of expectations squarely on Alex's shoulders. Secondly, let us analyze the cold hard statistics. Alex is currently navigating that treacherous zone between ranking 100 and 150 in the live standings. However, a deep tournament run here in Qatar, a prestigious 1,000-level event, presents a golden ticket for a massive accumulation of points. Securing wins in just one or two main draw battles here could catapult her into an entirely different stratosphere of the global rankings. We are talking about locking in direct main draw entry for Grand Slams like Roland Garros and Wimbledon later in 2026. The mathematical rewards on the table in Doha are simply astronomical. Thirdly, we are watching the Asian tennis narrative being rewritten in real time. For decades, the headlines were dominated by legends like Li Na, followed by the era of Japan's Naomi Osaka and China's Zheng Qinwen. The Philippines has never truly possessed a singles competitor in this elite dialogue until this very moment. Alexandra Eala is smashing that glass ceiling into a million glittering shards, the absolute frenzy tracking her. Every move confirms that the tennis ecosystem is starving for a fresh regional icon. That pandemonium at the terminal was the roar of a sleeping giant, the colossal Southeast Asian market finally awakening to its true power. We must also address the logistical nightmare that accompanies this level of fame. Reports indicate that the ground staff at the international airport were totally blindsided by the sheer density of the crowd. This signals a meteoric rise in her celebrity profile that has completely outpaced operational logistics. Typically, you only witness this degree of security mobilization for global pop stars or visiting presidents. For a tennis athlete to necessitate this level of crowd control in the Emirates is virtually unprecedented. It suggests that both Alex's management team and the local organizers severely underestimated the Eala effect. As she transfers to Doha, you can guarantee that security protocols at Hamad International are already being overhauled and reinforced. Expect the crowds to be massive. Expect the noise to be deafening. Expect Alexandra Eala. Let us pivot to the mechanics, the actual nuts and bolts of her gameplay that are fueling this hype train. During her campaign in Abu Dhabi, the increase in her agton serve speed was undeniable. We saw a much more predatory aggression on the return games against Sasnovich. While her mental toughness stole the headlines, her down-the-line forehand was the true engine driving her success. She is striking the ball with significantly more authority and moving with improved fluidity. However, the defeat to Alexandrova exposed a glaring crack in the armor the second serve. Against top-tier opposition in Qatar, a weak second delivery is like blood in the water. That second serve will be targeted without mercy. If she has managed to tighten up that delivery in the limited practice window between cities, she has a legitimate shot at busting the brackets wide open. If not, it will be a steep uphill climb. But frankly, the masses chanting her name do not care about second serve percentages. Right now, they only care about her fighting spirit. Part of this shockwave is simply the sudden realization of how much time has flown by. We have collectively watched Alexandra Eala grow up. We remember the glory at the US Open Juniors. We followed the unglamorous grind on the dusty ITF clay courts of Spain. We watched her battle through nagging physical setbacks. And now, in the blink of an eye, she is causing airport lockdowns in the Middle East. It feels like a formal graduation ceremony. She has transcended from a promising prospect to a bona fide tour sensation. Those viral clips circulating on the web serve as her diploma. As her flight descends into Qatar, the narrative shifts from a heartwarming homecoming, which is how Abu Dhabi felt, into a full-scale invasion. She is marching into the $47 territory of the absolute elite. The Qatar Open is a brutal proving ground where there are zero comfortable matches. Every single name in that draw is a certified assassin on the court. Yet Eala holds the momentum. She has the adrenaline of that chaotic send-off pumping through her veins. You have to wonder what is actually going through her mind as she sits in that airplane cabin right now. Is she scrolling through the footage of the mob scene? Is she reading the thousands of comments? Or is she locked in dissecting match tape of her next opponent? Knowing Alex's work ethic, it is almost certainly the FASM latter. She remains intensely professional, but even she cannot completely block out the deafening buzz anymore. The noise is now part of the deal. This viral explosion also compels us to ask serious questions regarding the responsibilities of the media and the fan base alike. The headlines about an airport shock imply a level of disruption that borders on hazardous. We witnessed barriers being shoved aside and security personnel losing their composure. While we love the passion, there is a very razor-thin line between support and danger. We need Alex to remain safe above all else so she can focus on her job. The mania is exciting, but it must remain sustainable as her star continues to ascend. The unfiltered access fans have enjoyed will inevitably come to a close. This was likely one of the final moments she could walk through a public terminal with any semblance of normalcy. From 2026 onward, it will likely be private jet centers and VIP backdoors. The fans at the airport today didn't just see a player. They witnessed the end of an era, chapter of her career, and the beginning of a much stricter security protocol. Now let us pivot to the massive strategic implications of her landing in Doha. The state of Qatar has invested endless billions into world-class athletic facilities, but concrete and glass do not sell tickets superstars do. Organizers are desperate for global attention, and Alexandra Eala, arriving with a tidal wave of viral momentum, is precisely what the tournament directors in Doha have been praying for. You can bet your bottom dollar she will be headlined on the main stadium court during the absolute peak viewing hours. The economics of professional tennis depend entirely on putting bodies in seats, and right now, nobody drives gate receipts quite like Alex Eala. She is not just selling tennis, she is selling national pride. To recap, welcome to our in-depth analysis of this developing story. The absolute pandemonium we just watched unfold was no accident. It was the result of a perfect storm fueled by the massive community of overseas Filipino workers stationed in the region. A miraculous comeback victory that stopped hearts everywhere. The undeniable charisma of a teen prodigy, and the suffocating intensity of this 2026 Middle East swing. If the scenes in Abu Dhabi were just the opening act, then Doha is shaping up to be the main event explosion. As we wrap up our live tracking of Alexandra Eala's chaotic departure from the Emirates and her high-stakes journey across the Gulf to Qatar, we are staring at one inescapable conclusion regarding the sport. The landscape of Philippine sports history has undergone a seismic shift. We are no longer speaking in hushed tones about what might happen in the future. We are currently watching a tangible, unstoppable juggernaut in real time. The video clips pouring out of Zayed International Airport, the sheer mania that has completely dominated. Your social media algorithms represent something much deeper than fleeting internet hype. It is irrefutable evidence of a nation rallying behind a once-in-a-lifetime icon, Alexandra. Eala is flying into Qatar with a lot more than just her gear. She is shouldering the collective hopes of millions. That said, the challenge facing her in Doha is incredibly formidable. The Qatar Open is legendary for being brutal, featuring a draw packed with the absolute elite of the WTA Tour. Whether she manages to punch her ticket to the next round or bows out in the first match is still up in the air, given the ruthless nature of professional tennis. However, the impact she has made over the last 48 hours is a monumental cultural triumph that transcends any scoreline. She has electrified the Filipino diaspora and thrust the sport of tennis onto center stage for millions of people who probably could not tell the difference between a drop shot and a double fault before this week. Even though the trending videos will eventually slow down and those social media stories will vanish after 24 hours, the electricity we felt in that terminal and that deep sense of national pride is going nowhere. Our team will be tracking every single moment of her run here in Qatar, play by play. Does she have another miracle upset up her sleeve for Doha? Will the Eala army take over the bleachers in Qatar with the same overwhelming passion they unleashed in the UAE? Every indicator suggests absolutely yes. For now, the flight is airborne, the dock. Massive crowds may have cleared out, but the message they sent is crystal clear. Alexandra Eala has firmly planted her flag on the world stage, and she is taking the whole archipelago along for this wild ride. Thank you for joining us for this special report. Keep your browsers locked right here for updates from Doha. The next exciting installment of this saga is about to begin. Have a fantastic night. Stay tuned and let us get ready for some world-class tennis.